I'm Rajul Pandya-Lodge. I'm Director for Communications and Public Affairs here at IFPRI, and I'm very pleased to welcome all of you to this special event on what is the cost of a healthy diet. New price indexes reveal changes in affordability of nutritious food. We're absolutely delighted that this event will present findings from CANDASA, which stands for Changing Access to Nutritious Diets in Africa and South Asia, which is a Tufts and IFPRI project funded by UK Aid and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. We have a fabulous program lined up for you. We have a record 10 speakers, and we are very excited by all that they have to share with you. And I would like to introduce our very first speaker, who is Will Masters. Will is a professor in the Friedman School with a secondary appointment in Tufts University's Department of Economics. Will, the floor is yours, and with that, with all the speakers. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Rajul, and thanks to all of you for joining. I think these policy seminars that Rajul has been organizing have been just an amazing convening, a place for people to come together and talk about food policy issues around the world, all different issues, and this project is one that I'm just inordinately proud of. I feel like we've been able to connect a lot of disparate dots. I've been working on price indexes for quite a long time, starting in the 1990s when we were concerned with distortions to agricultural incentives and the relative prices of foods to measure impacts of government intervention on farmers' incomes and poverty. And now turning to nutrition, we're able to do that in a way that's quite I think very insightful and even inspiring in terms of thinking about how we can learn about the food system and its performance over time across places, doing so much so fast because we have a really remarkable team. So the project, as Rajul mentioned, funded by UK Aid and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation as part of their portfolio of ag nutrition programs that's building on work, including a project called IANDA that Anna Herforth will describe, and a whole set of other research themes that come together with each individual contributor. So what's our motivation? We're trying to measure the cost of nutritious diets, not what people are actually eating, but what a nutritious diet would be, because we want to monitor the changing access to nutritious diets. There's dramatic change in urban areas, what's often described as a supermarket revolution, but there's also dramatic change within rural areas. So this photograph, sort of portrait that Anna took sort of very respectively and attentively of this vendor, fruits and vegetables in the front, packaged foods behind her. This is emblematic of the kinds of changes that we're trying to monitor through this project. Changes from own production to use of markets, from generic bulk commodities to branded and packaged foods, but also within the commodities, between the starchy staples that are the focus of CGIAR research, the Green Revolution, not just cereals, but also root crops, the animal source foods that IFPRI has done a lot of very interesting research through the ARENA project that Derek Heady leads that we're building on here. And then fruits and vegetables that are not part of the CGIAR mandate crops at all, but are really crucially monitored through A4H and many other initiatives out of IFPRI for the overall cost of diets. And what we're adding here is shifts in earnings and the agricultural transformation that changes the ability of people to choose among affordable foods. What we're building on is a vast infrastructure of price monitoring that's done to measure inflation, to add up the prices of the things that people actually buy and measure national income, measure poverty rates. We're using a set of toolkits that economists have used for a long time to measure the cost of calories, some work that was pioneered here at IFPRI by Derek Heady, looking at the relative cost of different specific foods per calorie, and a lot of work by economists in food demand to think about what determines the substitutions that people might make between one food and another within a food group and then between food groups as they meet their daily desires, which include foremost, above all, calorie balance, but then tastes and preferences and so forth. Aid programs have also used prices to recommend a specific least cost diet. So in the United States, what's called the Thrifty Food Plan. In the developing world, OptiFood, Fill the Nutrient Gap from the World Food Program, they've all been using food prices to compute what a very poor person should eat in order to meet their basic minimum nutrient needs. And what we're doing in this project is to use that way of adding up food prices for a very different purpose, to monitor food systems in terms of the degree to which they have been changing and could be changed through intervention to improve access and affordability of that nutritious diet. So what we have for you today is the idea that each CANDASA researcher will lay out the specific dot that we're connecting through the project as a whole, which involves a lot of nuanced context that you'll be hearing about from each of the country locations where we've been working. And we're having this seminar at the project midpoint. So we have a little more than a year to run. And we had originally planned to do this in the fall. We moved it up because we've been able to put together quite a lot of new findings that we'll be presenting each individual paper at the summer meetings, American Society for Nutrition, Agricultural and Applied Association, Economics Association, the African Association of Agricultural Economists, and the Agriculture, Nutrition, and Health Academy meetings in Hyderabad. And we'll be using the feedback that we get from you today and I hope by email and so forth after this seminar to inform how we go forward. So here's the team. Here's what we're building on. We have my own work on price indexes and economics that I've been partnering with Anna for some time through originally the Yanda project that she'll tell you about. Anna has a very deep history of working on dietary guidelines and dietary recommendations that come out of nutrition research, and at Tufts, working with two remarkable PhD students. You'll hear from Yan Bai with a background in business and finance, wanting to work on nutrition and getting very interested in epidemiology and health consequences. He'll share the data that underlies what we mean by nutritious, together with Kate Schneider, working on household diets in the context of Malawi. This is the sequence of presentations, to be followed by Stevie Kayatsa from the Ministry of Finance and Planning in Malawi, who will be discussing how they collect their actual data and the differences among types of markets in that context. Fulgence Mashili from Sokoine University will share the sort of expanse and diversity across Tanzania in terms of regions of the country and seasonality. And then we're leveraging this partnership with IFPRI to have the work that's done at the IFPRI country offices. So Derek Keaty will speak last, actually, to pull together the key messages from the whole project. Fantu Bachewe will speak about the remarkable Ethiopia data that they've been working with the Central Statistical Agency in Ethiopia for a long time. And Kalyani Raghunathan will speak to the Delhi office work on recommended diets in India. And our last speaker from the research side will be Daniel Sarpong, who's the Dean of the School of Agriculture, coming out of the Department of Agricultural Economics and Agribusiness at the University of Ghana in Accra, where we've been having a sort of remarkable collaboration with the Ghanaian government that he's been leading and will be able to share. So this is the cast of characters. We'll start with Anna Herforth. As I mentioned, has this very deep history with nutrition policy around the world that motivates the project and gives us the sort of the marching orders for what we're doing here. Yeah?